But let's talk about the Bengals. I'm upset. We both know. Everybody knows I'm the biggest Joe Burrow fan, and I will be the first to say he didn't play well tonight. He was erratic with his passes. He eventually tried to do a little bit more with the ball. He wasn't trying to take as many sacks, which I know is not his fault, but they didn't look like the team that has dominated in the last 10 weeks, and that team that was last year, and now Burrowhead is back to Arrowhead, unfortunately. But if you're now looking at the Bengals, are they now the Niners of the AFC?
In the fact that they're perennially going to always be in the mix, but not necessarily get there. Is that what you mean? Or
they're that gatekeeper. Until Mahomes loses, the Bengals are going to be that team. I feel like the 49ers are that team. They always lose to someone else. The Bengals lost last year to, they lost in the Super Bowl. But
still champions,
but
just like the Niners.
I think, again, they have pieces on this team. If they can keep that offense together and somehow keep an offensive line together, they're going to be unstoppable. Now, we saw today their defense got exposed. They played better in the second half, but whether it's drafting or free agency, they have to fix that defense. And that's going to be what keeps them, I think, from winning a Super Bowl.
They need to draft. They need to use a lot of their draft resources for this defense. I think that's going to be really good for them, especially as we move into this next football cycle with Burrow, Higgins, and the whole receiving core getting their due. But I will say this: there's one difference between the Niners and the Bengals, and that is obviously Joe Burrow.
Right.
Zach Taylor is a good enough coach. He's no Kyle Shanahan, but Burrow over whoever the Niners quarterback is the last couple of years is an upgrade. So I will say that they do have that special quarterback. So that the AFC is going to be Allen, Burrow, Mahomes for the next 15 years, just like it was Manning, Brady, Roethlisberger.
Does today hurt Burrow's stock as, well, we all wanted to jump and say the number 2 quarterback in the league after last week's win against the Bills?
I wouldn't say so, because he didn't throw any very costly interception. He didn't make any terribly bad decisions. They played a lot of cover 2 and a lot of shell like the whole game. Both sides did. So you didn't really get to see a lot of Mahomes and Burrow action.
Right.
It was still pretty cool to see, though, them go for it when they did. It looks like Mahomes had a little bit better luck, I'd say, with some of those routes that that were a little bit off script as opposed to Burrow. So that ultimately put them ahead, I believe. But they still are going to be more than good enough and set up for the next 3 to 5 years. I won't take it any longer than that. They're going to be a nightmare, and it's because Joe Burrow's there, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I think that Boyd is expendable. They could draft a receiver, I think, that could fit in well there. You have to lock up Higgins and Chase. Those 2 are very key. And tight ends, I like Hayden Hurst. I think there's a dime a dozen tight ends kind of like Hayden Hurst that can be plugged in there.
Yeah, plug and play.
You definitely need offensive linemen and defense. I agree with you, and I think the draft is the way to do it if you want to keep the team young for Burrow
and cheap.
And Bengals are a cheap franchise, but they're gonna have to pay Burrow, and I think he deserves every ounce of money that he's gonna get.
He's gonna get more than Mahomes too.
So we've got some young, fun teams that aren't even in the Super Bowl that if you put those 2 teams in the Super Bowl playing each other would have been just as good of a Super Bowl, I think.
Yeah, Bengals.
To me, the Bengals and Niners were 1B to both teams. So it's going to be super, super, super exciting.